Hey y'all, Dr. G here again. In this video, our goal is to use the quadratic equation to solve for x for these two remaining equations. Okay, we saw in the last video how we can quickly figure out what a, b, and c are, and then we saw one simple example of how to use the quadratic equation to solve for x. Let's go ahead and do that for this second equation. Okay? In this case, our a is 2, our b is 25, and our c is 50. So we're working with fairly large numbers. Okay? So let's go ahead and plug things in. My b is 25, so negative 25 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So 25 squared minus 4 times a times c, and all of this over 2 times my value of a, which is 2. Okay, as I mentioned in the last video, don't stress yourself out by thinking this is a big equation, because it's really easy to take it step by step and take these things in pieces. Okay, we know that 2 times 2 is 4. Using your calculator, you can figure out that 25 squared is 625. And if you need to, using your calculator, you can figure out that 4 times 2 times 50 is 400. Okay, so we can very quickly simplify this to negative 25 plus or minus the square root of 625 minus 400 all over the value of 4. Let's work underneath our square root. 625 minus 400 is 225. So all of this is equal to negative 25 plus or minus the square root of 225 divided by 4. Again, if you need to, which I suspect you do, use your calculator and you'll figure out the square root of 225 is 15. So we can further simplify this to negative 25 plus or minus 15 all over 4. And once we get to this simplified version, we need to break it up into two different expressions. Negative 25 plus 15 over 4 and negative 25 minus 15 over 4. Negative 25 plus 15 is negative 10. Divided by 4 is negative 2.5. Negative 25 minus 15 is negative 40. Divided by 4 is negative 10. So our two possible solutions for this equation is negative 2.5 and negative 10. So x can be either of these values. As I mentioned in the previous video, the last thing you should always do is to plug these values back in and make sure that when you do so, the answer ends up being 0, because this all equals 0. Okay? Let's go ahead and do this. We'll start with negative 2.5. 2 times negative 2.5 squared plus 25 times negative 2.5 plus 50. Okay? Use your calculator to help. I've already done so. And I see here that 2 times negative 2.5 squared is 12.5. 25 times negative 2.5 is 62.5. So this is going to be plus negative 62.5 or minus 62.5 plus 50. So 12.5 minus 62.5 plus 50 is indeed 0. So this confirms that x equals negative 2.5 is one possible solution. X being 10 is a little bit easier. 2 times negative 10 squared plus 25 times negative 10 plus 50 equals 0. Negative 10 squared is 100, so this becomes 200, plus 25 times negative 10 is negative 250, plus 50, so it works out to be 0. So both x being negative 2.5 and x being negative 10 both check out. They're both correct solutions to this equation. Okay, let's go ahead and do the last one together. All right, so we're going to be using these values of a and b and c. Negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 9 squared minus 4 times 1 times 20. All of that over 2 times 1. Let's simplify. 4 times 1 times 20 is 80. 9 squared is 81. 2 times 1 is 2. So this equals negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 80 all over 2, or negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 1 all over 2. Hopefully you can quickly determine the square root of 1 is 1. So we have negative 9 plus or minus 1 over 2. At this point, we break it up into two equations. We have negative 9 plus 1 over 2, and we have negative 9 minus 1 over 2. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8 over 2 is negative 4. Negative 9 minus 1 is negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Okay? If you remember how to carry through negatives and do things, hopefully you can work through this algebra fairly quickly. But what we've figured out here is there are two possible solutions for x are negative 4 and negative 5. And the last thing to do is to plug those back into this expression to make sure they check out, to make sure it ends up being equal to 0. We'll start with negative 4. Negative 4 squared plus 9 times negative 4 plus 20. So negative 4 squared is 16. 9 times 4 is 36. So 9 times negative 4 is negative 36. So we end up with 16 minus 36 plus 20. And if you put that in your calculator, you'll see that it does check out. It ends up being equal to 0. Now negative 5. Negative 5 squared plus 9 times negative 5 plus 20. Negative 5 squared. So this is 25. Negative 45. So we plug these in. We have 25 minus 45 plus 20. Indeed, these equal 0. So we've confirmed that these are the two solutions for our quadratic equation. Okay? So in many ways, this is the most difficult algebra that we're going to see this entire semester. In many ways, this is the most difficult algebra that you're going to see through all of your chemistry, unless you carry on into the more complicated courses in chemistry like physical chemistry, which relies on calculus. But the only other complicated type of algebra that we do in chemistry is using logs. So in the next video, I'm going to give you a really quick tutorial of log functions, and that's it. That's all the algebra you need for chemistry. If you can do this, despite it taking a little while, I recognize it takes a little while to work through this, but it's not especially difficult. It's just time consuming.